I'm gonna go get a wine. Can I treat anybody? And once I say treat, does that change the answer? Anybody? Yeah, wine?
A glass of red wine, actually.
I guess you know.
February 20th? Yeah.
No, the most exciting thing is I moved into my own house 2 years ago. Like 9 So I'm less and less inclined to do anything, but I'd like the old guys the same way. I just I got to do plus. So I did have one. I went back to the homestead in Melbourne last month for a surprise party for my dad. He turned 90. Yeah, he had no idea for the party. My 2 sisters were the ringleaders. They had put together a slideshow of Dad, and they contacted the guys that he had played with in the main band 40 years ago. Wow. We had a wonderful party. Time I get to my birthday, hanging out with the boat. That's great. Do you go back there? No, I don't. Not as often as you should. Probably, yeah. Probably. Yeah. Well, I'm far reclaiming the family. You know, I got 2 sisters live within 20 miles of where we live. Sister in Virginia, sister in North Carolina. I don't miss the East Coast, but I miss the food. So I got into some crab cakes. Yeah, Dad's in good shape. Dad is good. I had gotten some bad reports that he was refusing to use a walker like while he was on tour. And it turns out that as long as he stays on level ground or stays in the house, he gets around fine. He doesn't need a walker. And his mom is we had the same conversation that we could have had 30 years ago.
As we get ready to start this meeting, anybody that is going to want to testify, would you please raise your hand, see Barbara. We're going to have everybody that wants to testify sign in ahead of time so that I will know who's going to be testifying. I'll be able to call you. Thanks.
That's great. That's great. So good you can get back. Yeah. It reinforced my hatred of flying. I like to fly itself. It's just interesting. I like to small airplane, but I get so much involved with the procedures for the big airplane. I got guys who live in I don't know if you heard, but I got a mic back last week. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, how are you, Phil? Saturday. I saw a lot of my cousins. And we talked about family. You get together. Yeah. That's a long time. Because it's scattered there from Texas to Minnesota and around. I can say that it's somewhat high school. And it was great to see it. Yeah, well, we're a much more mobile society. Oh, yeah. You know, 100 years ago, like 80% of the population didn't get more than 50 miles from where they were born. Radicalized families could come together easily. It seems like a lot of people were born in one ocean and they go to the other.
If I can get you to I will. Sign in with Barbara Howard.
How you doing? Good.
Okay, we have one housekeeping item we need to handle. Unfortunately, our chair and vice chair were unable to make it tonight, so I'd like to request that Skip Beach, the District 2 Supervisor, act in the capacity of the chair for the purposes of this meeting. So Skip, did you want to take the lead?
I will.
Thank you.
I do. Okay, we're ready. I will call this special meeting of the Alpine County Board of Supervisors to order Thursday, December 2009 at 6:40 p.m. Pursuant to Government Code 54956, the Alpine County Board of Supervisors will hold a special meeting as follows. Meeting to be held at 6:30 p.m. at the Cathedral Lounge, Bear Valley Lodge, 3 Bear Valley Road, Bear Valley, California. Please note that Supervisor Sweeney, Supervisor Woodrow, and Supervisor Beach are present. Supervisor Bennett and Supervisor Jardine are not present. And Eric Jung, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Okay, we will go to item number 2, regular agenda new business. 2.1, Bear Valley Village Development Project, public hearing on the proposed Bear Valley Village Development Project and possible action to approve the following items. Number 1 is to adopt a resolution to amend the Alpine County General Plan that will modify the 1978 Bear Valley Master Plan specific to the Bear Valley Village Development Project. Number 2, adopt a resolution establishing detailed findings for compliance with the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA findings. And number 3, first reading of an ordinance to amend the zoning for the Bear Valley Village project site and approve a development plan for the Bear Valley Village Development Project that will modify the 1978 Bear Valley Master Plan, and that is the bailiwick of the Community Development Director. So maybe we'll get a staff report from Brian first, and then I'll open the public hearing.
Okay. What I'm going to do is give you an overview of the information that's in the staff packet, and then talk about the decision options and the staff recommendation. We have a very thick packet here with a number of attachments. And I'm going to start with the staff memo, which is right behind the agenda transmittal. And that has a list on it of what all the attachments are. Attachment 1 are exhibits from the project application. There's a project description, a number of graphs, graphic maps, and other exhibits. Attachment 2 is the resolution to amend the general plan. Attachment 3 is the ordinance to amend the zoning. That has its own set of exhibits and attachments that are part of a plan development designation as it's titled, or essentially a zoning document for the property. Attachment 4 is a resolution which includes detailed CEQA findings, as they're called. Attachment 5, there's a number of documents from the applicant that were submitted as supplements for this hearing. Attachment 6 is some additional documentation regarding environmental issues that were identified in the board's hearing back on May 29th when the EIR was certified, and some comment letters that came in just the day of that hearing and shortly thereafter. So attachment 6 is primarily documentation from the county's environmental consultants that responds to those letters that were submitted at that time. And then attachment 7 contains the public comments that were received for this hearing, limited to the ones that were submitted when the packet was put together about a week and a half ago. There have been a number of letters that have come in since then, letters and emails that were not in the original packet. And I think what we'll do at some point in the hearing this evening, maybe during the public hearing, is read those in the record, not read them full text, but just letter from so-and-so, dated so-and-so, so those are part of the public record. On the second page of the staff report, there's a timeline that shows, illustrates or shows the process for this project since its submittal to the county in the fall of 2006, and then that application was completed in March of 2007, and it shows the process from that point forward. And in the middle of that list is tonight's hearing, the public hearing for the Board of Supervisors to consider the general plan amendment and zoning for the property. And then it goes on to list some additional steps that would happen beyond this hearing today. And let me just take a moment here and give a little bit more on this. We're at a point here where the board is considering whether or not to approve the project, which is basically the plan for the development. If that's approved in future years, as each phase or specific piece of the project comes forward, each building or each phase, there'll be an application for that individual phase that will consist of what's called a conditional use permit and a tentative subdivision map. Those will be submitted to the Community Development Department, go through a review and a public hearing with the Alpine County Planning Commission for those specific phases or projects as they come forward, and then the Planning Commission will make the decision on those. Those decisions are appealable back to the board. So for each one of the phases, or 13 or 14 buildings, I have the exact number committed to memory, but for each phase or grouping that comes through as an application, we'll go through that individual process. There are also a number of other permits and procedures that are required of this project, be it from other agencies, primarily other state agencies on permitting, Cal Fish and Game, Caltrans, and so on. Those are generally described in those bullet list on the second and third pages of the staff memo. Skipping ahead a couple of pages here, I'm not going to go over the project description. That's just summarized here in the memo. The two actions that are on the agenda this evening are whether or not to amend the county's general plan and zoning for this amendment to the Bear Valley Master Plan. And there are criteria for decision that are listed in the staff memo here, both for the general plan and the zoning change. We can come back and refer to those if we get to the point this evening where the board is ready to deliberate and consider making a decision. We can come back and go over those criteria. And then at the bottom of that page, there's a heading Board Decision Options. And what the staff has done is outline what the options are for the board this evening. It's broken up into two sections, one for the general plan amendment and one for the zoning ordinance, but the options are essentially the same. You can move forward with a vote to begin the approval of the project, both for the general plan and the zoning. You can certainly move forward with a vote to deny the project. And then number 3 on the list is to continue the public hearing to another session, another board meeting, date and time to be determined. And continue to take public input. There actually is a fourth option that is not listed in the staff memo. That is a possibility, which is to go ahead and conduct the public hearing, take public comment, testimony, whatever documentation is submitted to you this evening, and then to close the public hearing and begin the board deliberation process. You do not have to reach a point this evening where you actually vote on the project. You could continue your deliberations to another board meeting, time and date, to be determined, or to a regular board meeting if you want to just continue it to a regular board meeting. So those are your options, and when we get to the point in the staff memo here on staff recommendations, that is what we were actually recommending at this point, is that we conduct a public hearing and then go into board deliberation, but continue that. Primary reason for that is fairly lengthy documents that have just been received in the last 48 hours, I'll say, that the staff and county counsel's office have not had an opportunity to fully review. I'm sure the board does not have an opportunity to read that. They're fairly lengthy, raise a number of issues that we feel it's important to put documentation in the record based on the issues that were raised in those. So that is our recommendation this evening, but certainly you have those full range of options available to you should you decide to take another course. The next couple of pages of the staff memo are just a summary of some additional items. I've already mentioned the CEQA record having to do with these letters that have come in and the need to make sure that the record is complete. Attachment 6 is part of that. That again is the documentation from the county's CEQA consultant on those issues that were raised back in May and June, or May when the board was considering certification. The greenhouse gas emission issue has continued to be worked on. There in attachment 5 of the documentation that you have, there is a proposed greenhouse gas reduction plan that was submitted by the applicant. So you have that. That is new since the DIR action was taken back in May. The DIR includes a mitigation measure to say that the greenhouse gas reduction plan shall be created at each phase of development. The document that's in attachment 5 is a first attempt or a first cut at outlining what a greenhouse gas reduction plan would look at. Certainly it's not tied to any particular phase of development at this point because we have not reached that point in the process with the project. The Highway 4 traffic impacts, comments about that. There are mitigation measures in the EIR that speak to Highway 4. Since the certification of the EIR back in May, the staff has met on 2 occasions with representatives from agencies in Calaveras County, the Calaveras County Council, the Calaveras Council of Governments, and Caltrans to continue to discuss additional conditions of approval that would provide, if you will, supplemental mitigation for Highway 4 impacts. And in fact, condition number 67 in that attachment A4 is a proposal from the applicant on the commitment to additional mitigation for Highway 4. That is in your documentation. In the staff memo, there's a bulleted list there under the heading of traffic for Highway 4 traffic index. Those bullet items are essentially a summary of the 2 meetings that Alpine County had with the Calaveras agencies and Caltrans. Those are the major points that came out of that discussion. The applicant's proposal that is in condition number 67 does not address every one of those points, and we could probably hear testimony on that this evening. Just summarize that for you. There's a short discussion on the parking issue in the staff memo. We can go into more detail on that if you have questions. The overview of that is that the project has its own parking within the project, so self-contained within the project, within each phase or within each building, there will be parking for that building. There's a mitigation measure that talks about a parking management plan to address additional parking demand as a result from the village lift coming into the valley. That would be done in each phase of development and looked at, and the outcome of that mitigation needs to be no net loss in parking with the demand that might come from the village lift. The EIR also talks about parking demand going forward in the future as the rest of the valley builds out, as the subdivision builds out. There's no specific mitigation measure for that. The EIR commits the county to continuing to work on that and to come up with a separate plan for how that parking demand is going to be met over time. And then biological impacts, there are mitigation measures that address the mitigation for the ski runs. And then there is a new condition, number 69. Again, this is a condition proposed by the developers to commit to $50,000 in funding to the California Wildlife Conservation Board for the purposes of acquiring a conservation easement or land that would be set aside as conservation land or open space somewhere in the Calaveras Alpine Highway 4 corridor yet to be identified. So that is a new condition. And then finally, there's a short discussion of wastewater treatment capacity. I think what I'd like to do there is not go into that at this point, but talk about that as a result of when you get to your deliberations, as you have continuing questions about that issue. The documentation in the staff memo really refers to the Bear Valley Water District's process that they went through, their CEQA process, and their issuance of what's called a notice of determination. They completed their CEQA process, environmental analysis of the plans to upgrade and improve the wastewater treatment in the valley. So at the end of this, you have in boldface the recommended action. I'd like to modify that and go back to my opening comments about our recommendation is to conduct the public hearing, close the public hearing, and then continue the board deliberation to another board supervisory meeting session. And what will happen in the meantime is the staff will work on documentation in response to the letters that have come in, particularly the lengthy ones that have just come in the last couple of weeks.
One of the other things that I've been discussing with Mr. Wright, who's in for our town council, Martin Klein, is the fact that we're missing two of our board members this evening, and I feel as though this is a pretty significant event for our county, and I'll be asking council to look into if there's some way to have those two supervisors be included in that deliberation.
That's another benefit of postponing this meeting, because if they were to review the tape and review all of the evidence that is presented tonight, then they would also be able to participate in the final decision. So that would keep that option open.
Before I start the public hearing, Brian, would you introduce the proponents of this project, please?
Okay, let's do that. The proponents, the technical name or the actual legal name is Bear Valley Village 1 and 2 LLC. Those are actually two separate entities. Here, this is Greg Finch with the development group here in the front row. Leah Tennisketter then over here is Chuck kind of scattered. I think that's your group, and then you have your councils here as well. But so you can introduce them. Okay. The other members of your team, public hearings, they can introduce themselves.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to go through some of the hearing procedures so that everybody is clear as to how this will be conducted. This is a legislative type of public hearing, which means that we are considering an issue or issues of community-wide scope that has to do with ordinances and legislative decisions. Anybody that wants to testify hopefully has signed in, and if you want to testify and haven't signed in yet, there's still an opportunity to do that. All testimony given before the board will be given from the podium that's right there. And I guess I'm supposed to ask everybody as they testify to affirm that their testimony is completely truthful. Only one person at a time will be able to speak. There will be no debate or argument among the speaker and the audience. And no member of the public should speak unless recognized by myself. Board members may ask clarification questions of people who are testifying. Any exhibits that are presented will be marked. I guess somebody has a way to mark those. I don't. Barbara does. Okay, very good. The clerk to the board has that. We have already received the background information from staff. We will start out, when we start, with the applicant. We'll have 10 to 15 minutes to present the project, and then the testimony in favor, neutral, or opposed will be given to start with 3 minutes. If you have a need to speak longer than 3 minutes, then that'll be okay. We're here to try to hear everybody's concerns. And at the end, the rebuttal by the applicant to the testimony will take hopefully not more than about 5 or 10 minutes. And then the board will go into deliberations. Public hearing is open. So if the applicant could go up to the podium, and you have up to 15 minutes. And if you wouldn't mind, state your name, because not everybody will know who everybody is.
My name is Greg Finch. I'm president of Dundee Resort Development. I live in Colorado. Dundee is 1/3 entity of partnerships proposing this project. This has been a long haul. Chuck and I were saying today over coffee this morning, when we started this process 3 years ago, we had no idea how long, how arduous, and unfortunately occasionally unpleasant it was going to be. At this point I can just say we're real excited that we're nearing the end of this phase, and we're really looking forward to moving it forward. We submitted our application to the county, as Brian said, in the fall of 2006. In March of 2007, the notice of preparation for the draft EIR was issued, and we started holding our public feedback meetings up and down the corridor. 1.5 years later, a public meeting was held here on the draft EIR, and in May 2009, over 2 years later, the Board of Supervisors certified the EIR. And if I can add a small comment there, I think it's important to emphasize that certification means that the board was satisfied that the EIR complied with California requirements to to study the environmental impacts of the project, and to provide the mitigation measures related thereto. We then went through 2 Planning Commission meetings in August and September of this year where the same EIR issues were discussed, and some additional mitigation measures were added to the list of the county requirements. Despite the fact that we've been passing through these statutory milestones along the way, during the past 60 to 90 days, we have been continuing to have discussions with several parties who believe our mitigation measures are inadequate. And if I may, Brian mentioned most of these, but if he indulge me, I'd like to highlight what we've been doing, because we've been working very hard, and I think we're very proud of the progress that we've been making. To be specific, there were 4 things. CSERC was concerned about our green building practices. CSERC was concerned that our greenhouse gas reduction plan was inadequate. Calaveras County and Caltrans were asking us to put considerably more money towards road improvements and put considerable amounts of that up front. And CSERC, and lastly, CSERC has been asking us to mitigate the biological impact on the 26 acres of land impacted by the lift and the ski mounts. I'll talk about 3 of these, and then Aaliyah will tackle the greenhouse gas one, which is the hardest, so I'll leave it to her. In response to the concerns about the green building practices, we have committed to build a project to LEED 2009 standards. Number 2, on the biological impacts, the final EIR stated that there were impacts to the 26 acres, but the proposed mitigation reduced them to less than significant levels. In spite of that, at the Planning Commission level, we did propose an additional measure to mitigate the impacts, and we basically proposed that whatever the Forest Service asked the ski area to do on their part of the land, we would do the same. We thought that would be adequate. In response to additional comments from CSERC, though, we have added the additional mitigation measure that Brian mentioned, is we're proposing to put $50,000, 25 at the front and 25 down the road, to the Colorado Wildlife Conservation Board, which will work in conjunction with California Department of Fish and Game to identify and acquire easements or other interests on land for the purpose of protecting habitat.
It's California Wildlife Conservation.
What did I say?
Colorado.
You forgive me for that. On the Highway 4 issue, based on the county's traffic studies, the final EIR provided that the project will pay $750,000 towards road improvements in Calaveras County. In addition to that, we agreed by response letter to contribute $106,000 to help fund the improvements known as the Wagon Trail realignment. So we have a total of $857,000, worked out to be a little more than $1,700 per unit. You will recall at the certification meeting that we were presented with letters from Caltrans and Calaveras. I'll use the word strong word, demanding $7 million and $1 million up front to build passing lanes on Highway 4 and make other road improvements in Calaveras. We said then, and I'll have to say it again now, that putting that amount of money into the project at that stage renders our project infeasible. But since that time, there have been ongoing and I'd say very productive discussions between ourselves, Alpine County, Calaveras County, COG, and Caltrans to reach a compromise position. We're trying to be good partners and we're trying to be good neighbors, while all the time we're always trying to be mindful about keeping our project feasible. We have proposed, as Brian said, and we have in your packet, a new schedule of fee payments. Basically, there were 3 underlying principles to that. Instead of $750,000 or $856,000, we agreed to go to $3 million. It will be funded over the life of our project, which we always thought was commensurate then with how we build it. The impacts will obviously occur as we add more to the project, so we wanted to spread out the payments. So the way we set it up is there's a certain amount per unit, and then there's some milestones along the way where we fund bigger chunks of money to reach the $3 million by the end. In response to this proposal, Calaveras County has asked us to consider two things: indexing the funds over time to keep up with construction costs, and to address a need for some level of funding earlier in the schedule to allow them to do the environmental and engineering work so that they were ready to go with the project when the bigger piece of construction money arrives. Tom Garcia and I spoke about this today, and I think we are, I'll say publicly, we are very willing to continue those discussions on both of those points. And based on my conversation with Tom today, I think we can arrive at a solution that will meet their objectives and does not render our project unfeasible. The last issue that we've been working on for the last 90 days is the greenhouse gas reduction plan. Our final EIR required that we provide a reduction plan at the time of each permit application. CSERC expressed their concerns about the timing of this, and so in response to those concerns, we have been working on such a plan. Leah Tennisketter, our project manager, will describe some of that work.
Good evening. My name is Leah Tennisketter. I've been the project development manager on this project since it began about 3 years ago, so intimately involved, and thank you for coming over this evening. In terms of the greenhouse gas reduction plan, you have this in your packet. We hired a consultant to work with us who's very skilled and experienced in helping us at this stage in the project when we're pretty far out from knowing any details. What can we commit to at this point where we can understand what the repercussions are going to be, the costs are going to be, so on and so forth. They basically split it into 3 different parts for us looking at our project. The first part, Table 1, if you've had a chance to go through it, talks about items in our project design that are not typical of what they call business as usual projects. Things that we've already incorporated in our design that are going to be reducing greenhouse gases as we go forward. For example, retail, residential, employee housing, all located very close together with the installation of a village lift that can help coordinate the traffic, keep it all local, therefore reducing automobile trips between here and the mountain. Table 2 focuses more on measures that we are committing to implementing in our project. For example, 25% of our outdoor lighting will be from renewable sources. That's one commitment we've made. The second one that hopefully will help more in the community is to start providing a fund. We've committed to almost $130,000 to help homes in Bear Valley, many of which were built in the late 1970s, to weatherize and become more energy efficient, thereby reducing the greenhouse gases for the community as a whole. These are things that we've committed to in Table 2. Table 3 are items that we really want to consider, and we will continue to do so, but at this point it's very difficult to commit to. For example, we're looking at installing trash compactors in our main building. It's going to be quite a bit of trash from the number of units in the retail and commercial. At this time, we're working with the trash hauler, and they've mentioned to us, well, there are a couple considerations you need to know before you can actually put those in, to know if you can reduce the number of trucks going, or garbage trucks going up and down. For example, the temperature can't be below a certain degree for the mechanisms to work. There has to be enough clearance within the garages to get the trucks in and out. These are things at this point in the process we don't know exactly what those details are, so we're not ready to commit to it. That would be disingenuous for us to do. But we are willing to look at it as we continue to work through the details of the project. So that's where we've been with greenhouse gases. We're very proud of what we've done here, and just want to bring that to light. Thank you.
Summarize my remarks then. You can see that we continue to work very hard after both the EIR certification and the Planning Commission meetings to address additional concerns of the environmental stakeholders. And we're going to continue those discussions where appropriate. And if staff's recommendation is what we do tonight, obviously we're going to have another 30 to 40 days, I guess, to keep working with these stakeholders before the next meeting for the decision. 2 last things, Mayor. May I respectfully ask again to keep in mind that the new village cannot be expected to solve all the existing problems of the valley. And lastly, I'm sure we're going to hear comments, concerns, and hopefully some really good information about the water company tonight. I'm not going to speak any more about that, but I do want to congratulate the board and the other involved citizens for the progress they've been making. It's phenomenal. I look forward to your comments and questions. Thank you.
Any board members have any questions of Greg or Leah? No. Thank you very much for the information. Okay, now, to keep it easy for me, I'm going to start calling names for people to testify in the order that you wrote your name on this list for the public hearing. And I'm going to start with David Johnston. By the way, you took only 10 minutes, so you did well.
Well, I'm going to take less than 3 minutes. My name is David Johnston. I own the Bear Valley General Store. I've been here since 1982. I'm probably the oldest person that owned a business here in town. I've been working at it for 27 years, and I've been up and down economically. I know the ins and outs of all the business here in town, and I know the importance of having this project go forward. I also represent the Board of Directors of the Alpine County Chamber of Commerce, which I'm the president. And I also represent the Bear Valley Business Association, which I'm also the president there. It's a high-paying job. Just a real fast note, positive vote on the project would be an asset to the community. It would be great for the economy of Alpine County. And the entities that I represent are 100% in favor of the project. If there's any questions, I'll answer them. If not, this speech is over.
Thanks, Dave. Next, John Hamilton.
And good evening. My name is John Hamilton, and tonight I'm here before you as a member of the Calaveras County Chamber of Commerce Board, and just have a letter from the board to read into the record on the project. It's fairly short. Alpine County Board of Supervisors, regarding the Bear Valley Development Project. The communities of Calaveras County are all very dependent on businesses like Bear Valley that generate tourist business. There are only a handful of businesses that attract large amounts of tourists to this area year-round, and Bear Valley has the potential to have the biggest impact of all. As you can imagine, the guests that Bear Valley brings to the area create revenue opportunities in Calaveras County for lodging, dining, real estate, retail, and other tourist destinations. As the EAR states, Calaveras will realize the bulk of the financial benefit of this project. It is therefore very frustrating when our own government entities stand in the way of key economic moves for Calaveras County. On behalf of the Calaveras County Chamber of Commerce, we encourage you to move this project forward and not delay any further with upfront fees that would impede a good project from going through. We believe such action would be very short-sighted, and such action would not recognize that developments like Bear Valley project will invigorate Calaveras County at a time when the area and the state are in need of good development project with strong investment teams behind them. Retail businesses and construction businesses in Calaveras County are hurting. We have a number of struggling businesses and higher unemployment. We strongly anticipate that the improvement plans for Bear Valley will bring a needed boost to the county and request that all governmental agencies look to support redevelopment rather than impede it with upfront fees and other obstacles. A strong Bear Valley means a stronger Calaveras County. We need this project to move forward right away. Sincerely, the Board of Directors from Calaveras County Chamber of Commerce.
The next person is Robert S.A.M. something. I can't read the rest of it.
Samrano.
Oh, okay. Good. Thank you.
is Robert Samarano. Honorable members of the Alpine County Board of Supervisors. I'm a member of the Carpenters Local 1789. Like many members of Local 79, I live in this vicinity. I enjoy the air, the water, the environment, and much as anyone else. We want a clean environment that our families can enjoy. We also want a healthy economy that produces high-quality jobs. Unfortunately, the Bear Valley project falls short on the economical and the environmental goals. As Caltrans has presented evidence showing that the Bear Valley project will cause massive amount of traffic delays and impact on the state Route 4 through large areas of Calaveras County. Unfortunately, the EIR does not analyze these impacts, such as passing lanes that are necessary to reduce the impacts. These traffic impacts will directly affect many of our members. We urge the board to continue this matter until a new EIR is presented to resolve these other impacts. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Next is Gregory Chapman.
I would like to submit this to the county clerk. Okay. Honorable members of the Alpine County Board of Supervisors, my name is Greg Chapman. I'm also a member of Carpenters Local 1789, South Lake Tahoe. Members of Local 1789 live in and around the community. Many of our members drive on roads that will be affected by the Bear Valley Village project. We fish in the streams that may be affected by the project and breathe the air that will be affected by this project. I am concerned that the proposed Bear Valley project presents significant environmental risk to the community while presenting inadequate economic benefits. I am presenting the board extensive legal and technical comments documenting the environmental impact that will be presented by the project. These comments are supported by the expert analysis of noted sewage treatment expert Dr. Bruce Bell, PhD, of Carpenters Environmental Association in New York. Dr. Bell explains that the existing sewage treatment plant is already inadequate to handle the sewage needs and has overflowed into the Bloods Creek. The new project will greatly increase the sewage flow into the plant and will certainly overwhelm the sewage treatment facility. The EIR contains no adequate mitigation for this impact. I urge the board to continue this matter until a new EIR is prepared that adequately addresses these impacts. And at the very least, we urge the board to continue the matter until it is time to consider the expert comments that we have submitted and to consider ways to minimize the project's environmental impacts while maximizing its economic effects or benefits.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Gregory. Next, Thea.
Hi, my name is Leah Shotgun, and I live in Tamarack, California. And thanks for traveling all the way to Bear Valley tonight for this meeting. I'm here as a concerned citizen who has lived and worked in Bear Valley in the area for the last 25 years. And I would like to remind everyone that tonight's discussion is not just about a new village resort, but it's about a town too. My concern is for the Creekside Drive area along the development. Along this street is a school, library, park, community center, and daycare. I ask that the supervisors show great care for the safety of the children, the families, and the public who use Creekside Drive to travel between these public facilities. I ask that a safe traffic flow of pedestrians is maintained, or for pedestrians is maintained, and that easy access be provided between the new village and the existing town. And I also ask that when the time comes to build a lift, condos, and commercial area, please consider the placement of the temporary batch plant quite carefully in regards to the health and noise of the community. Thank you.
Next is Tom Garcia.
Good evening, Honorable Chair, members of the Board. Tom Garcia, Director of Public Works for Calaveras County. I'd like to state that I appreciate working with the county staff and developers and working on developing an agreement for traffic mitigation that's acceptable to all parties. After lengthy discussions, some of which occurred as late as this afternoon, it appears clear that we're getting closer to an agreement to address those issues. There are still a couple of items that need some clarification and additional details. As we outlined earlier, the tying of any fees to a construction cost index, as well as some development costs, so that we would have a shelf-ready project in order to construct something when these funds become available. But I believe that it's clear that we can come to some sort of resolution in the coming weeks. And to that end, I would request that any action on approving this project be delayed until both the county, Caltrans, the COG, Alpine County staff, and the developers can meet to clarify and work out these last remaining details. The county does support this project with proper mitigation measures, and I look forward to working with all the involved parties in developing an agreement that meets everybody's needs. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
I'm going to clap for that son of a bitch.
John Mallard is next.
I'm John Mallard, and I'm one of the pro patrollers at the mountain, and live here at part of the volunteer fire department. I just recently moved my permanent residence here at Bear Valley, and I can tell you I'm pretty excited about the project. And one of the things you have to find out is that really there's a lot of people that try to live here, maintain jobs. Drop Andy and King and Aaron run a business, and you got Jeff and Jackie run a business, and it's tough. It's really, really hard. So the fact that we're going to have people come in here and help develop our community, enhance it, grow it, make it a more vibrant community, enhance the retail stores. My wife's really excited about the retail stores, by the way. So I'm going to go on record to say I'm not excited about the retail stores. For me, I think this is just so vital to the project. So, it's great. We're sitting in this total cool lodge right now, but this thing is like really outdated. And I work at the ski resort, so I can't say anything bad about ski resort because my bosses are here. It needs some work, all right. And we need to revitalize, the ski area, the town. And what I like about the project is it's not this insane Vail, type project. It's a really, it's quaint. It brings people in. It's the right number. It's good retail. It's this small community. It keeps the family at the focus. So just when I look at the drawings and what our intent is, it's just perfect. It really kind of fits where we want to go as this community. So, I kind of look at this and I go, this is a gift that very few towns get. to be able to have a developer come in who's been here for so many years. I mean, Chuck and his family's been here for years. They're a homeowner here. They care about our community. They're not here just to make a dime. There's so many things that they've done in this community that have been really just to help it grow that they did need to do. A lot of work's being done on the mountain. And so I think it's going to bring jobs. It's going to bring a vibrant community. And I just think it would just be insane to not, let our community grow. So there you go. Oh, and one last comment. Can we comment about a previous comment that was made? Are we allowed to do that?
Yes.
Okay, I'm a wastewater engineer. That's what I do when I'm not patrolling. All right, and I really understand the wastewater treatment plants. And so this entire thing that we're talking about here, this project, it has no impact on our wastewater treatment plant. Our wastewater treatment plant is driven by snowmelt. All right, and we go from 25,000 gallons a day to 300,000 gallons a day, and it's because of the rain and snowmelt that we get in the April-May time frame. It has nothing to do with the homes and houses and condos that are being built. So that was totally wrong. So I just want to make that really clear as I exit the store here as a wastewater treatment engineer. So thanks.
Thank you, John. Kathy Snyder.
Hello, Kathy Snyder. I've lived here for 24 years. I'm a homeowner. I'm on the fire department. I run emergency medical services. And I'd like to say that in the 80s, we used to see 6,000 skier days.
Yes, we
this
did.
Traffic was packed. The roads were packed. The restaurants were packed. Bars were packed. The businesses, the rentals were booming. And little by little, this place has gone downhill. It's like a rose dying on the vine. It's been really tragic to watch. It's been terrible to watch my friends who are in business not having customers, not having the business, not making money. Home values are going down. It's really, really sad to watch this happen. I'd like to say also to those that are worried about the environmental impact of the traffic problems, we have a tenth of the traffic that we had back in the 80s. A tenth. You used to go into a bar or restaurant and you have to wait to get seated, to get a drink, to get a rental, to find a parking place. And yes, there are some parking issues. There's the issues that need to be addressed with this that haven't been resolved yet. But really, people, come on. This is going to make jobs. It's going to provide people coming up here. It's going to help the businesses. It's going to help everybody. And in all honesty, if it were up to me, I live with no neighbors whatsoever because I love the peace and quiet. I don't like construction, but it's time, really, it's time to move forward with this. I ask you guys, I urge the board to move forward with this project. Thank you.
All right,
Kathy. Just a quick question. You gave us a figure of about 6,000 skiers a day.
That's right.
What was the average last year?
Oh, I couldn't tell you that, but
Not near as
probably
much.
half.
Half? Okay, thank you.
But midweek, I'd like to add midweek, there's hardly anyone coming up here. We've really 500,000-600,000 people a day back in the 80s. And now, lucky to get 100 on some days. So, actually, thanks for calling me back, because I have another thing to say. That might not get me to leave. You know, when people have condos up here, they're coming to stay. So those people that were driving up and down the hill every day now are staying for a week or two, and actually, traffic's going to go down because of that, right? They're going to bring their friends up, they're going to stay here, and they're not traveling up and down the hill quite so frequently. So I think that's just another way to look at this.
Thank you, Kathy. Next up is Joel Barnett.
Supervisors, thanks for making the trek over the pass tonight, or all the way around, I should say. Appreciate it. For the record, Joel Barnett. I own Bear Valley Real Estate. I spend 10 hours a day, 6 or 7 days a week in this building and we're in here with my wife. And but we're Calaveras County residents, and we are also property owners in Bear Valley and many of the surrounding communities, and we own commercial property in Arnold. So we feel like we've really put our money where our mouth is. And so I could comment on a million different things, but the first thing I just want to talk about a couple of previous speakers. I was really curious to hear what the union guys were going to say. I have several friends that are in carpenters unions. A 30-year friend of mine is in the stagehand and set builders union in San Francisco. And, I convinced him to join the union because his shoulders were wearing out and he was swinging hammer by himself. And his body was wearing out and he didn't have any savings or health insurance or anything. So I said, go join the union and you'll get taken care of. So I'm for unions in that regard. But the three speakers we heard tonight, or the two speakers we heard tonight, it really disappointed me. I was really curious to hear what they were going to say. And so one speaker gave you some pitch about how we should go with Caltrans money, paying up for Caltrans. And the other one gave a speech that was filled with inaccuracies. He mentioned the sewer treatment plant, which is a completely side issue and separate from this issue that's on your table. And it's being solved as we speak. I think we're going to hear good news about it soon. And so I would like to speak. Second one is Mr. Garcia, who I haven't personally met yet, but I knew his predecessor down at Calaveras County, and who came out to meet me in Sky High Ranch, where I live full time, and that's 5 minutes down the road, but in Calaveras County. And we have a failing water system. We have failing county roads. We have all our drainages have failed. The county desperately needs money. The county's infrastructure is failing in Calaveras County. And I've worked very closely with Supervisor Maria Callaway for, I don't know, 11 years now, or a long time, about how can we finally kind of get on the calendar to get our roads repaved in Sky High Ranch in Calaveras County. And there is no actual list, so we don't know for project 9,999. But I would hope that whatever deal is worked out between the developers, that the money that ends up ostensibly going to mitigate issues in Calaveras County, and where do you start with Calaveras County? They need everything. But I'd like to see it start back in this community. Sky High Ranch is a satellite. It's a suburb of Bear Valley. And like a lot of classic ski town economics, a lot of full-time residents can't afford to live in the actual town, so they buy just outside the town. And it's a very nice place to live. It's a true neighborhood. So I would like to see if any money does go Calaveras County's way, I would like to have the developers have the power to stipulate how it gets spent in Calaveras County, or at least be able to weigh in on that so that it gets spent as close to this actual project as possible, because that will it will eventually pay them back. When the surrounding area is nice, then this area is nice. If the surrounding area is a ghetto, then this area can't be as nice as it could be. So I just wanted to say that. Thirdly, I want to speak as somebody who feels like I really understand economics. I spent 15 years as a market maker in the trading pits on the Pacific Stock Exchange. And my folks owned a real estate agency in the Berkeley Hills, so we were feast or famine. My dad joked, he called it Pintos to Mercedes. Pintos, Mercedes. Pintos, Mercedes, as the markets go up and down. And being a member of this community for November, starting our 9th year full time, I've really grown to respect the business acumen of Chuck Tennisgetter. I think coming straight from the stock exchange right to Bear Valley, I'm kind of a business junkie, and he's a very smart businessman, and he was super smart over the years trying to put together the right partnership, not just any old partnership. And we almost became Powder Corp. We were almost bought by Powder Corp. and several people came and went, and Chuck took his time and found the right people in Dundee. And Dundee are the right people. I love the fact that Greg flubbed and said Colorado instead of California. That means California, Colorado, they're synonymous in his mind. And gosh, do we want a developer to partner with Chuck Tennisketter, who's from, I don't know, Louisiana, to come build a ski resort, or Colorado? So, amen to Colorado. And they're not a huge corporation. It's not like Powder Corp or American Ski Corporation or East West buying us. That would completely be a game changer and completely irrevocably change Bear Valley. There's no way that kind of corporation could have this kind of impact on its community and still retain the things we're hoping to retain, which is independent business, not a coal mine company around town. And Chuck Tennisketter has said from day one that they're arms wide open, welcoming independent business. And so what I do know from trading 2 stock exchange crashes in the trading pits when I was the piñata and y'all were the stick, I understand there's bottoms of markets and there's opportunities that happen at bottoms of markets, and the timing on this couldn't be better. If you ask Americans, and it's in USA Today and all the papers, what's the #1 fear on people's mind right now? Do they say it's the war in the Middle East, or war on terror, or AIDS, or whatever? It's the economy. Right now, statistically, that's what Americans are concerned with. And gosh, don't we feel it super hard here in Bear Valley, where, you know, we're the cul-de-sac. We're not getting much here. And so these people are coming along at a time when I'm not spending money right now. I'm in a shell. You know, I'm like a turtle in a shell with my money right now. And so is America. And here comes these guys saying we are going to employ people and we're going to spend money in this town. And I think that at this point in history has to weigh for a whole lot. So thank you for your input.
Next on the list, Eric Jung.
I've lived here for 40 years. I got on the CSA board in 1977 as the current Bear Valley Master Plan was being developed. And I got on the Board of Supervisors in 1982. I was there for 15 years. I have lived intimately with the Bear Valley Master Plan and the County General Plan since it was issued in 1978, and I have always supported it, and I feel that any amendments that we're making to it are improvements. I have always supported the Bear Valley Master Plan and how it fits into the County General Plan. Clearly, we need this. The only other point I want to make, besides my support, is about the process. Clearly, we can wait and keep refining and refining. We can study these things to death. It seems that all you have to do to generate more opposition and more letters of protest is just announce a meeting, and then magically 48 hours before the meeting date, some more letters show up. If I were against this project, I would probably use that tactic myself. I would wait until the last minute and try and throw some speed bumps in front of you. But at some point, you get close enough that you're not going to please everybody. You reach a tipping point. You don't have to get it perfect. The perfect should not be the enemy of the good. And I would hope that the county puts all its resources into closing these last loose ends, taking care of the last negotiations with Calaveras County. I support this project, and I urge the Board of Supervisors to pass these resolutions and amendments as soon as you can. Don't kick this up and down the street and let it get chewed to death. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. John Buckley.
Good evening. My name is John Buckley. I'm the director for the Central Sierra Environmental Resource Center. It is interesting since I've been part of every single one of the meetings so far related to this. It's interesting that many people with heartfelt, good intentions see this project as saving Bear Valley and miraculously going to turn around the economy despite whatever may be happening elsewhere. And I hope that's the case. And I'm not here tonight to say that this project should not be approved. I'm expecting that, having attended so many sessions and listening to the board members and the planning commissioners, there's no way that this project is not going to be approved in the near future. I don't think that's the issue tonight. The issue tonight is for the environmental documentation that your staff has provided, or the discussions that are up tonight. Is this project reading the letter of the law? Is the county getting it right? Is it getting it perfect, despite what someone might say that you don't need to do? And the question is how can you move this project forward so there won't be legal challenges and that the project can honestly move forward expeditiously? Our center recognizes that there's a lot of issues, and that while some may want to beat up on someone who raises the issue of wastewater, for those who've listened to testimony and read through the EIR and read through comment letters, to claim that there's no issue related to wastewater is not accurate. There are different points of view and how much the project may or may not affect it. But there are many issues because it's a very large, complex project that will be coming forward in phases. Our center has attempted to focus on just 3 key areas. And the first area, which has to do with wildlife, I start by fully acknowledging, please listen carefully, I am praising Greg Finch, Leah, Rick Manley, and the others connected to the project for how they have worked and come up with an acceptable and adequate mitigation measure for the concerns that we believe were significant and were in need of mitigation for wildlife. They have done everything that we've asked on that, and you will not hear any further complaints or criticisms related to wildlife mitigation because of what they've done. It's also positive that they are looking at LEED certification, but like many things that have been thrown in here in the last 10 days, there's not clarification as to how that would actually be monitored, what sort of independent watchdog would be assuring that it went forward, or even specifically what they honestly are agreeing to based on the V3 certification that they're talking about. A second problem, besides the wildlife, was the traffic mitigation. And while we do support the fact that Calaveras, Caltrans, and the applicants have come much closer toward resolution, no one should be tonight considering that this is something that has now reached a satisfactory level that will not require a legal challenge. On one hand, I'm hearing very positive things from Greg as he spoke tonight, and if that kind of mitigation and compromise takes place, our center will strongly support whatever compromise comes forward between Alpine County, Calaveras County, the applicants, and Caltrans. The third and most important issue for our center, because of the magnitude of the project and because of the magnitude of the impact identified in the EIR, is the greenhouse gas emission plan that they have referred to. And again, I give credit to the applicants because instead of just saying, no, we're not going to do it until the first phase or whatever, because I believe they recognize that there's legal vulnerability for not mitigating before there's a project approval, so there's clarity for the public to comment on whatever mitigation. They have put forward, as someone referred to earlier, a first cut at a greenhouse gas emission plan. I provided a letter that was part of a packet that didn't come in 48 hours, but did come in back on Monday, because we only got the materials last week for this meeting, and as part of it, we hired a consultant who works with the State Attorney General on greenhouse gas emission plans and planning, so that we could look at what they've come up with and give you response back. So snide remarks from people in the audience about throwing roadblocks in the way. I worked throughout the weekend and our attorneys actually communicated with me on the weekend so we could get communications in as early as Monday as possible. But at this point, it is clear that the plan that has been formulated for this particular meeting does not include numerous legally feasible, reasonable mitigation measures that would reduce project emissions. And the consultant that I referred to, we provided a letter from Terrell Watt, who is again the consultant working with the State Attorney General's office concerning mitigation measures. And what she emphasizes that the EIR fails to recommend and analyze the effectiveness of all feasible mitigation measures to mitigate significant impacts. On page 2 of the document, she says an agency may reject a mitigation measure that is presented to it and that is reasonable on its face only if the agency can show that the measure is infeasible. And the agency has not done that for many of the things that have been suggested. But more important, she says over here, and I'll read this very carefully, says it's important for tonight. Although the county now has a greenhouse gas reduction plan, this plan has not been circulated for public review, and it does not include all feasible measures to reduce the significant greenhouse gas emissions from the project. One important point is that the greenhouse gas reduction plan and many other mitigation measures that are positive in terms of that they're coming forward here, they have not been provided for public review. And the challenge is that her assessment, and I won't go through the pages, very specific comments she had, point out that the greenhouse gas reduction plan for the Bear Valley Village project does not include all feasible mitigation measures, and she closes by saying neither the EIR nor the final greenhouse gas reduction plan identifies all feasible measures. A revised EIR must recommend and analyze all feasible measures, and the county must adopt those measures if it is to comply with CEQA. Now, with the attorney for the applicants can stand up here and provide perhaps a different perspective, or we can have our attorneys, Shute Mahaley and Weinberger, who's not the consultant, who provide a similar perspective. But what it really comes down to is it's a matter for you to judge is whether or not you're going to require a revision of the EIR. Our center, with all due respect, goes on the record saying that's what you really need to do. But I'm not stupid. I've listened to you guys informally, and I've also listened to the applicants. I don't think there's a chance that you guys are going to require a supplemental EIR. If you want to get the project approved, Greg, Led, Chuck, and others, they don't want to wait 6 months or a year to have another supplemental EIR sessions and all. You guys want to get going on this. So what I'm asking tonight is this. Our center is trying to find middle ground, and as I've already shared, we believe it's been found on the wildlife. If the county is not going to require the revision of the EIR, then at the very least, the greenhouse gas reduction plan and other last-minute revised mitigation measures need to be circulated for public review. 30 days would be just past the first of the new year, and that would be a chance for the public to be able to provide input, written input, and from the perspective that I have, it would give our center additional time to give specific negotiated suggestions with Greg and Leah, who we've been working with, and we believe we're making progress. So to cut to the chase here, I urge the board not to take any action tonight to approve the project, which is following the recommendation of your own county staff. And due to the major changes in mitigation measures and the 446 pages of legal materials that you guys were supposed to have read for this meeting, and that our staff waded through for this meeting, that you give a chance for public input for 30 days. And I've been at county supervisors meeting where they've actually done what I'm suggesting. If you are going to close off, quote, the public hearing on this matter tonight, if that's the recommendation, I know, because Tacoma County's done it a number of times, you can allow continued written input to still be received, even though you have closed the formal, verbal, oral testimony. If you can't do that, if you believe you can't do that, then please leave continue the hearing to the point where you can have people who have not had a chance to provide written input to get the last minutes in at whatever time you have your next session to actually approve the project. So in closing, I'm emphasizing that it is not an empty commitment on behalf of our center that we believe we can find middle ground solutions to close off the legal problems that are still tied, especially to the greenhouse gas emission issue and to what we believe are the mitigation fees or traffic fees tied to Calaveras County. I'm urging you not to rush at the last minute here because, as the applicants know, we have a minimum threshold that we've communicated that we have to sue if we can't see the project meet that minimum level. But we are not far away, and we are not unreasonable or unrealistic in asking for the moon. That's not what we're talking about here. So I ask that the public hearing not be either closed tonight completely or that at the very least you allow written input to the time that you continue your deliberations to, so that we can continue to not only negotiate directly, but communicate to you as the decision makers what we believe is successful or unsuccessful in those negotiations. And hopefully, prior to the next time we meet, that we're able to tell you that we have resolved the remaining issues, not to our satisfaction, but to a minimum level of threshold that will eliminate the need for any legal challenges. Thank you.
Next is Gloria Droa.
Good evening, and thank you for coming up to Bear Valley. I too made the trip up here from my home in Los Altos. But I have a vacation home in Bear Valley, and I've had one since 1992. I've been coming here as a long-time visitor since 1987. And I never experienced the 6,000 a day skier experience that people hark back to. So I have no point of reference other than this has been a complacent, relaxing community for me to come and take a vacation in. And when I look at this project, which I am wowed about, I mean, it's a wow project. I realize there are 500 condominiums going into Bear Valley. We have now about 500 residents. It's doubling Bear Valley. Now, nobody has explained to me why Bear Valley has died. And nobody has explained to me why building 500 condominiums is going to make it alive. But I leave that to economists and other people. I do know, sitting outside the lodge here, are 20 empty condominiums that have been built and to which no one has come. When this process began several years ago, I remember in the lodge here saying, what if you build them and nobody comes? And I was laughed at. I am perceived in the county here or the village as an obstructionist. All I have done is read the master plan for Bear Valley. I have read the proposals, and I find a lot of loose ends that have never been satisfactorily addressed or resolved. And I'm going to digress for 1 second. This past summer, we were faced with an issue involving our sewer treatment plant. And for years we've been told we had to put in a tertiary treatment plant. Now we have a quasi-public board running our sewer district. And we were told initially it was a $15 million plan, then it got down to a $9 million plan. John Mallard came in with anywhere between a $2 and a $4 million plan. Well, since August first, when I got involved, we have worked with a bunch of people here to try and resolve the sewer problem. And it turns out that we don't need a tertiary treatment plant. We don't need to spend millions of dollars. We have been taken for a ride. Fortunately, we came this close to being saddled with a $6 million job. And I find that a lot of things go on in Bear Valley that are on the surface everybody loves, but when they want to do the hard work and read into it, there's no joinder. One of the examples is in the packet you received last week, 450 pages. And it took me about 4 hours to read it. I assume it's taken others as much time, and it raised a lot of questions that weren't answered. And then I started looking at some of the graphs. And I will refer to page 40 in the attachment. Now, Community Department has been working on this plan for years. On page 40, and I don't know if you can bring it up on the screen, but on page 40 of the attachment is a graph of how many EDUs are to be built. And they don't add up. You can add the columns. I did it with a calculator. And they don't add up. They're saying they're building 500 and whatever the number is of EDUs. And when it turns out, this is not the same number. So I wonder who is doing the hard work on this? Who is checking and double checking? On the original master plan, it said Bear Valley was to have the two parcels, BC1 and BC2, 200 condominiums and 361 lodge units. Somehow or another, that number got translated into 561 condominiums. There is a reference in the report to the fact that there is no size indicated in the original master plan as to these units. Well, we have a lodge here. It has the 61 built units. What are the sizes of the rooms? They're probably about 20 by 40. That does not add up to a 1,350 square foot EDU. So you have 200 condominiums and 361 lodge units. And somehow or another, this has been turned into now 561 EDUs or condominiums, and the impact on a 40-year-old infrastructure has really not adequately been addressed. If nothing was in Bear Valley, and Chuck and friends came in and wanted to put in 500 condominiums, they would have to build roads, they would have to build a water treatment plant, they would have to build a water facility, they would have to build infrastructure, they would have to do all of that. And they would have to provide not only parking, but they would have to provide snowmobile parking. We are the only village in the continental United States that in the winter has over-the-snow transportation. We are having a commercial revitalization to this community here that completely excludes any reference or provision to snowmobile parking. What are the people who live up the road supposed to do? Why isn't it being included? I have raised this issue innumerable times with innumerable people. We raised it with the planning department. I have raised it with our supervisor. I have raised it in letters. There was a snowmobile ordinance that you passed. I raised it there. And people just turn their head and will worry about it later. Well, if you're going to have, according to the report, 47,000 net commercial space, you need to have a place for people to park their snowmobiles to use it. in this EIR voucher. I will want to say one other thing in conclusion. This is an application to amend the zoning. And the primary change in the zoning is B and C lots. And they're going to change it at this point in time to allow it to have condominiums built on it. According to the report, the applicant said these will only be built if the market bears it. There is no reason to change the zoning at this time for a project that may never happen. What it does, it gives an entitlement for which we get nothing in return. So I am for the project, and I feel like Mr. Buckley, that we need to have the letter of the law complied with. In closing, I really do support the project. I would like it to be built, but I would like it to be a reasonably built project. And there's one other thing that I'm going to ask a point of clarification. We've had a sewer district issue here, and I was under the impression that that was going to be addressed by the general manager of the sewer district. Is that supposed to be done in these comments now, or will you be specifically asking him questions later?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the first part.
Okay. We have, your report and your documents indicate that the sewer district has adequate capability for these condominium units. And my understanding is that it doesn't, or it's limited. And my understanding is that the project wants to be approved in whole and not bifurcated. So the person, the general manager from the sewer district is here, but he hasn't either been asked to speak or will he be asked to speak because he hasn't signed up to speak. And I think you need to have the sewer district issues clarified and on the record. And I've addressed this issue not only with the attorney for the applicant at the last meeting, I gave him a heads up, but I've also discussed it with the planning department. And they keep insisting that there's not a problem with the sewer because of a requirement to build a tertiary treatment plant that we no longer need to build. So there's been a significant change in circumstances. And I don't think you should hear it from me, but from the general manager as to what the capability of our current sewer treatment plant is. And with that, I thank you for your attention. And there was one other thing, finally. On the original plans, and in the original 1978 map, the parcel E went straight through Bear Valley Road. And I have gone to the county offices to try and find out when this piece of parcel became privately owned land. And the maps and the deeds don't follow. And that's another issue that I've raised many times and nobody's been able to address it. So I had real concerns about the fuzzy map on how many units you can build under the existing environment. And I have real problems with the snowmobile because it's not being addressed at all. And I have real problems with the change of ownership on parcel E. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next is Barbara Goodrich.
My name is Barbara Goodrich. I've been a homeowner in Bear Valley something like 11 or 12 years. And I want to thank the applicant. I appreciate the additional mitigation efforts. I think all of this refinement makes for a hugely better project and better for the community. My particular axe to grind is something on which I've been on the record for a long time, and it has to do with parking. The mantra, I believe the parking study is significantly flawed. I am a CPA by training and background, and numbers are what I do. And the mantra has been no net loss of parking, no net loss of parking, no net loss of parking. And the way it's sitting right now is that there is no net loss after you deduct 94 spots for the lodge. So it cuts what is now available for parking from approximately 300 spaces to approximately 200, 30 or thereabouts of which end up on the street. It ends up being about 3/4 of a spot per residence, and it concerns me hugely because none of us have 3/4 of a car. I've sat down with Leah about this. I give her all the credit in the world for trying to address this, but no matter what else happens tonight, whether you defer a decision, make a decision, or anything else, I ask you to please take me up on my offer to initiate a parking study commission comprised of citizens, applicant if they want to be part of it, BVRI, all of us who have an interest in this thing, and we probably ought to do exactly the same thing for snowmobiles. You know, we're working really hard to make this thing move forward, and it would be wrongful, in my judgment, to defer important decisions about how we're going to handle these details when we have a cadre of willing and reasonably intelligent citizens and neighbors wanting to address the issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Rosie Sundell.
Good evening. My name is Rosie Sundell. I am on the board of the Calaveras Visitors Bureau. And per your instructions, I'd like to affirm that my testimony is true and correct. And I'd like to note that I'm the only one who's done that, so probably throw everything else out. I was asked to come here tonight by the president of the Calaveras Visitors Bureau to speak, make a brief statement for the Visitors Bureau. And really it's aligned with the statement they gave to the Planning Commission several weeks ago by our Executive Director, Lisa Mayo. They would like the Board of Supervisors to know that the Visitors Bureau is in complete support of this project. They believe this project will have a critical impact on Calaveras County. The Bureau believes that there's been adequate evaluation of traffic and environmental impacts that this project may have. They can only hope that the traffic would get back to the levels that it once was many, many years ago, as that has had a negative impact on Calaveras County as well as this county. The Bureau recognizes the positive impacts that this project will have. I'm sorry, this thing's just too tall for me and I'm tired of standing on my toes. The Bureau recognizes the positive impacts that this project will have on Calaveras County, especially its key industries, including retail, recreation, construction, and our ability to promote tourism for Calaveras County. We encourage you to use whatever authority and power you have to move this project forward and remove any financial or political obstacles that may further delay this project. This project and the success of Bear Valley as a whole is very important to Calaveras County. We encourage you to move it through as quickly as possible with a very favorable vote tonight. And I'd like to just make one other comment, just because I've heard some other things, and this is coming from me, not on behalf of the board. Prior to coming to this meeting tonight, I met with Daryl, who is the president of CBB, the board, and as well as was approached by Russ Thomas, who is with the supervisors down in Calaveras. And he asked me that if I heard anything that seemed negative to this project on behalf of the county, that it would be inaccurate. That he asked me to present that this county is in complete support of this project. So I just wanted to make that comment. And I affirm that it is true and correct. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosie. Next on the list, Jeff Gobert.
I'll keep this brief. Thank you to everyone who's spoken before me. I think this is as much about the process as it is about the result. I think all comments are significant here. Tonight I represent the Bear Valley Residents Incorporated, BVRI. I'm Vice President at this point. Dave Morley, our President, asked me that I read this letter to you all, so I will. The Bear Valley Residents Incorporated has supported the Bear Valley Master Plan since its inception. We believe the development proposal before you is in substantial compliance with the plan. And while there are some details to be worked out, we, Bear Valley Residents Incorporated, believe the regulatory process will allow opportunity for those issues to be resolved. We therefore urge you to pass the amendments to the master plan and the zoning ordinance. Sincerely, Dave Morley, EBRI.
Thank you, Jeff.
Is it possible to be a copy of that?
Oh, Jeff?
Yes.
Could we get a copy of the letter? Could our clerk get a copy of that? Thank you. Next, and possibly last, is Marco Hernandez.
Good evening, my name is Marco Hernandez. I'm an employee of the Carpenters Union of Northern California. I represent a lot of workers throughout the High Sierras. I'm very well educated on CEQA, and we're not opposing the project by any means. We agree on projects going on in construction, smart construction, not just construction for construction. Also, I have a question for the lady right here at the front. When they say they're going to be housing the employees to try to control the green gas. My question is it going to be the same process that was done in Denver, bringing HTP workers from abroad to do the job? Or is it going to be people from the area that is going to be benefit with these jets? The question again is,
I'll just say that that's not the process that we use here. You can make your statements, but there's no one here that's
it's just a question.
Cross-examination. So
it's a question.
You can make your statements, but the process here doesn't involve cross-examination.
Okay. Thank you. And like I said, we like smart construction, not just construction for construction. And let's analyze the impact on the environment and also the economy in the area. The jobs are ready. We need the jobs in this area, but we need the people that lives around the area to get the job done. Thank you.
Okay, is there anybody that didn't sign up that would like to give testimony? Come forward and I'll write your name down for you.
You want to come over there or where?
Go ahead. Just tell me your name.
My name is Lance Makovsky.
Could you spell that for the record, please?
Let me look and see. MACHOVSKY. MACHOVSKY.
Thank you.
I've lived in Bear Valley for about 22 years. I own the Bear Valley Sports Shop down the hall. I'm a full-time realtor in Calaveras and Alpine County. I work out of an office in Arnold. I've owned other businesses in Calaveras County while running the sports shop here. And so I have a pretty good sense of the business climate in Calaveras and Alpine counties and what's happened over the last 22 years that I've been here. And it's not been a pretty picture. There are signs all over the place of diminishing business activity, and we are holding on by our fingernails, those of us who are doing business in town, hoping that we turn a corner and become profitable and are able to run sustainable businesses into the next 20 plus years. I think the comments that have been made tonight they're all valid, and everyone's concerned that this thing is done right, but I believe the hearing is just a general plan amendment and zoning change, and I would encourage you to approve those two matters, and as other people before me have stated, let's get on with working out the fine points and the details of whatever we have to tackle in keeping this project moving forward. I think we have a great opportunity here to improve a town that's been lagging and waiting for someone to come and invest some serious money, energy, and time into perfecting the master plan and building out the vision of the people who began Bear Valley 40 plus years ago. I just encourage you to move forward tonight, vote positively on the two things before you, and thanks for your time and attention to all the fine points.
Thank you.
My name is Julio, J-U-L-I-O, Guerra, G-U-E-R-R-A, and I am the recently minted new general manager of the Bear Valley Water District. And I've been on the job since July 28th, and so we do owe the Board of Supervisors an update on our situation. But first, I would like to express my relief at this puzzle of why we got a public records request from the Carpenters Union in Lake Tahoe 2 weeks ago, which we dutifully responded to, has been solved, and we're not going to get sued, I guess. Anyway, I have been working with the Regional Water Quality Control Board in reevaluating our permit conditions, and we're going to be applying for an extension, for a renewal on our MPDS permit come in the next few months, and they are open to relieving us of the tertiary treatment requirement because of the historically good water quality that our system has produced, and that and it isn't a done deal yet. However, they are working closely with us on the steps that we need to take to modify the permit. Now, regarding the project in question here, I met with the proponents this morning, and I explained to them what our current situation is with regards to connections, and we have 230 connections available based on previous calculations that were based on 1981 construction standards of the district. Now, we're looking at, I'm going to recommend to adopt the Calaveras County standards, which will change our equivalent dwelling unit capacity figure, and so we will have about 350 if the board adopts the CCWD standards. And so basically that's our situation. And are there any questions?
What was the number that it increased to? 340?
To about 355. And those will be first come, first served. They're not, I'm not sure how we mesh in with your process, but anything beyond that, we'll be looking at improvements.
Okay. Julio, thank you very much. Sure. Did you want to go up and testify?
No, I just wanted to ask.
That's up to the chair. You can allow it, but
okay. If it's something that can be answered quickly, please.
Simple, very simple. Over the years, will the potential hookup fees allow for capital expansion improvements?
Yes.
Enough to give you treatment capacity for 551
Well,
units.
that is, it's a matter of standard of care. As was explained earlier, our system is subject to some natural influences that need to be accounted for. And among the things that we would have to look at for expansion are increasing our land application area or, or installing new processes.
Sir, could you give us your name, please?
Philip Hagar.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Public hearing is closed. I would like to thank everybody for
Chairman,
the input.
Chairman, I think there are a couple more.
Well, I think that's after the public hearing. And that's the next.
That should be part of it.
It should be part of it? Okay, I'm sorry. Then we'll reopen the public hearing. And, yeah, that was what I was going to do next. The applicant has time for rebuttal, 10 to 15 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Whit Manley. I'm an environmental lawyer with Remy Thomas Goose Manley here on behalf of the applicant, trying to make sure that we have an adequate CEQA record and that issues are dealt with in a fair and honest and open manner. And I forgot a piece of paper. I'd like to talk about some of the issues that have been raised tonight and in some of the last-minute letters that have been submitted. We join staff's recommendation that you close the public hearing after the rebuttal testimony happens, and we also support the recommendation that you continue the matter, deliberate tonight if you wish, and then deliberate further when you continue the public hearing. That approach makes sense to us. So the public hearing is still open, so I can still talk for the time being. My hope is that you will shut me and everyone else up tonight. Also, for purposes of rebuttal, Chuck Tennisgetter has a few words. I also want to mention the fact that Gordon Shaw, the traffic consultant who did all this work on behalf of the county, is here on my left. And if you do have any questions for him or about traffic issues, I encourage you to direct them to Gordon. He'd be happy to answer them. I got contacted by Chuck Tennisgetter. I'm not talking as a lawyer for about 1 minute. I got contacted by Chuck Tennisgetter about 2 years ago to help with the environmental review process for this project. I saw the design, I saw the plans. I'm familiar with Bear Valley, having skied here over the years. And I liked the project. I liked the project the first time I saw it. I still like the project. The thing that is different about the project is this has had a lot of ornaments attached to it. Authentic, real, genuine, helpful ornaments to address environmental issues and concerns as they've come up. The project has evolved. That's what the CEQA and the public hearing process is about. It makes projects better. This is evidence of that. But I don't want to lose sight of the fact it's still fundamentally the same project, and it's a neat project. So having said that, I'm now going to become a lawyer and therefore talk about negative things. Occupational hazard. I am going to address some of the legal arguments that have been made this evening or in the letters that you've just received. There's been a suggestion, first, that because conditions of approval, mitigation measures, what have you, have evolved since the county published the draft EIR, that a document needs to be recirculated for further comment with the conditions of approval, the mitigation measures as they've revised. Now, as a matter of law, you have discretion as the board to decide whether you want to recirculate documents or not. But I'm very familiar with the standard for recirculating EIRs, publishing supplemental EIRs for further public review. The fact that mitigation measures evolve is not a reason why you need to recirculate a document legally. That's the way the process works. In fact, that would be perverse. Let me give you a specific example.
The traffic study recommended a fair share contribution for improvements to State Route 4 of approximately $750,000. My legal judgment is that was an adequate analysis, and if you adopted that condition tonight, that would be a record that I would feel very happy defending if someone sued on it. Now, having said that, the county, your staff, Calaveras County, Caltrans, CCOG, they've all engaged in further discussions, and as a result, my client has committed to funding $3.1 million worth of traffic improvements on that corridor. Is that a change that should, in effect, penalize us by requiring that we recirculate the EIR? Because we've sweetened the pot 4 times over? That would be perverse. Happily, that is also not a legal requirement. Mitigation measures evolve to the extent that they become more stringent. That is not an event that needs to trigger the duty to recirculate the document. If it were, you would be locked into the mitigation measures in the draft EIR. That's not the way the process is supposed to work. We're supposed to adapt mitigation measures based on input. That's exactly what's happened. And so, respectfully, I do not believe that recirculation of the document for public comment is legally necessary, nor would it make any sense in this case. Second, there has been note of the fact that there is disagreement about whether mitigation measures are adequate, whether conditions of approval are adequate. Mr. Buckley, in his testimony, noted that we've made a commitment to provide funding for the acquisition of open space easements. And Mr. Buckley, I thank you for applauding my client for making that commitment. And I really appreciate that. I genuinely do. There are other examples of that where we don't quite have agreement yet. Funding on the State Route 4 corridor is an example of that. Do we have to have agreement in order to have an adequate mitigation measure under CEQA? Well, the answer to that is absolutely not. It's nice. I hope we get it. I think we're very close. I think we will get it. But it's not legally required. What is required is that you have substantial evidence in the form of traffic analysis from a very qualified traffic expert explaining why $750,000 is a legitimate figure for a fair share contribution. And even if Caltrans or Calaveras County disagree with that number, $750,000 is still a legally adequate contribution, and your EIR explains why. Agreement is not necessary. Evidence is, and you have that. Now, having said that, I would be delighted if agreement were reached, and I hope it is, and I think it will be. Third, there's been a claim that water or sewer capacity must be locked up available today for the project to be able to proceed, otherwise somehow CEQA has been violated. That is legally not true. There needs to be an explanation of a plan or a path for capacity. This EIR indicates that there will be adequate water supply. In fact, the water rights have been approved by the state board, so that supply exists, it's there, it's firm. And there is a path towards ensuring that capacity is available on the sewer side when available, and you just heard from the general manager speaking to that issue. Now, a lot has been going on with respect to sewer capacity. I understand that. It's evolved. But the fundamental conclusion has not altered, and that is that there is adequate capacity to serve this project, or at least there will be when as the project builds out. A couple of comments about the CEQA process generally and the way it does tend to work. I have to say, I do this for a living, and it is a common theme that folks use the CEQA process in an effort to create legal leverage and thereby attempt to get more of what it is that they're after. In my judgment, there is kind of a legitimate, valid, authentic way about going about that, and candidly, I applaud CSERC for taking that approach, because they've been very clear from day one about what their objectives are, and they have worked with us in an attempt to reach agreement. We have in some places, we haven't in others. We may not reach agreement, we keep trying, but I do applaud their approach. It's legitimate, even if John, from time to time, is stubborn and tenacious. I say that affectionately. There's another way to do it, and it's exemplified, regrettably, by what I think the unions are doing, which is using the CEQA process and the leverage it affords to achieve aims that really have nothing to do with the adequacy of the environmental document. I'd like to read a very brief quote from a case called City of Poway versus City of San Diego, reported decision under CEQA. Brief quote, and in my judgment, apt. Quote, understandably, delay is a tactic in environmental disputes to force developers to accede to project design changes simply because of the economic pressures to move a development forward. Fairness is a concept not yet outmoded. We think the dumping of 53 challenges on the day of the hearing without explanation as to the obvious delay is unconscionable. Moreover, all of the petitioner's challenges were anticipated by the draft DIR. Where has the union been during the 3 years that this project has been underway? Why are they here now? We can all speculate about that. I will say that what they are concerned about has nothing to do with the legitimacy, adequacy of the environmental document before you. That's my opinion. It might be disputed by others. Take it from me, I'm right. So I'm disappointed, but that's the way the game is played. It's kind of cynical, but so be it. People use the tools available to them. So against that backdrop, should you take up Mr. Buckley on his request that you receive further comment on conditions of approval? I implore you, don't. Do not have another public hearing. Do not accept more letters. If you do, you will get 23-page letters one day before your next hearing. Don't accept them. Don't accept them from me. Shut me up. Let your staff do its work. All these issues have been thoroughly ventilated. Let them work through all these last-minute submittals. Let them document for you that all the issues have been covered. I believe they have been, but obviously some of those comments only just came in, and I don't want to be too flip about that. Let staff do its work. Finally, a couple of quick comments on conditions of approval that have been suggested. Mr. Drury is the lawyer for the unions. In the course of his letter, although I said mean things about him tonight, he actually is a nice person and a very capable lawyer. He's doing his client's bidding. I understand that how it works. In the course of his letter, he actually does suggest that the county consider incorporating into the approval a condition calling for a preference for local hiring. We actually support that. And one thing that I would suggest to staff, if you do give them direction to mull over all these things, is to consider formulating a condition of approval calling for such a local hiring preference. We will support that. And then finally, County Council has provided us with the text of a proposed indemnification agreement. A proposed condition of approval requiring the applicant to indemnify the county in the event that a CEQA lawsuit is filed. We recognize those kind of clauses are fairly commonplace, and we'll accept that condition as well. I really appreciate your time. Thank you for letting me rattle on. And with that, Mr. Temstead, thank you.
Chuck, look at yours. Watch the cords.
Good evening. My name is Chuck Tennisketter, T-O-E-N-I-S-K-O-E-T-T-E-R. I've been a homeowner here for 25 years and a condominium owner for just about as long, as well as the commercial activities that I've gotten involved in. So I've seen a good portion of the history of Bear Valley. And in my opinion, where we are today with the Board of Supervisors, whether you vote on this evening or whether you vote at a later date, I think this is one of the most important times in the history of Bear Valley, this particular event. More so, I think it's really the most important decision for the future of Bear Valley, the most. Not one of the most, but I think the most. You know, Bear Valley has struggled throughout its history. I know Bruce Orvis very well. I know the history of this very well because I've been entwined in it for so long. And I think one of the major reasons that it has failed to reach its potential is because it's never had the ability to combine the resources necessary to do so. In this case, it's the village, the lift, and the ski area. putting all these together. I think that Bruce Orvis, as a rancher, Dennis and Bonnie Rasmussen, as accountants, Jim Bottomley, as a beer distributor, were well-intentioned here, but could never work with the whole system to make it happen. And as a result, I think the description of the decline of Bear Valley over the years was very accurate tonight. Today, we're sitting here where we've been able to, with a tremendous amount of work and a lot of time over the last 10, 15, 20 years, to combine these entities to make Bear Valley reach its potential. And really, to me, the village lift has always been the key driver in putting that lift in at $8 million plus. We have brought Dundee into our partnership because of their expertise in the Arapahoe Basin in Colorado and the work they've done on Arrowhead, Beaver Creek, etc. in the Vail area. We visited their headquarters and researched them thoroughly in Toronto to make sure that they had the same kind of value and philosophical interests that we did as we accumulated all the things that we have had to do here in Bear Valley to be here tonight. Without this, we wouldn't be here. And we've really developed a master plan that's followed the 1978 master plan with its densities, with its land, and we've done it on an infill property. If you look at the property, 2/3 of it practically is covered with asphalt right now. So it's not like breaking new ground. This has been set up for the long term. It's been used property, and we are basically going to improve an infill piece that needs dramatic improvement. Now, we've taken on some very difficult, hard internal issues with some very positive results. And I'd like to remind the Board of Supervisors, because you may, or Terry certainly knows of them, that you may or may not be aware of all of them. And I'd like to cover them on a macro basis rather quickly. One, we did make the promise to BVRI. The Board of BVRI visited me, I think, 2 or 3 times in the very beginning of this, that we would not, with our development, produce a net loss of parking spaces available to the homeowners of this community. We have kept that promise. It's in the EIR. It's in the traffic study. We have kept that promise. We also, with this zoning application and amendment, the reason that we're here is that we talked and felt it was important for this project to take a look at covered parking for the homeowners with the possibility of putting a parking structure on lots B and C. It's as simple as that. That's how that got started. It was the covered parking. Because of the difficulty of moving cars, of moving snow in this Bear Valley area. In order to do that, we needed to have the ability to transfer some of the densities we have on VC1 and VC2 to those lots in order to be able to accomplish it with condominium buildings, because the county certainly can't afford it, and the only way to do it is with the economics of a condominium project on top of that parking structure. Make no doubt about it, that is exactly how it occurred. Now the snowmobiles. We've been talking about snowmobiles. You know, I think a lot of work's been done with respect to snowmobiles. There's still some to be done, no question. But I'd like to remind everyone that, one, we've allowed snowmobiles to cross our property for many years back here on BC2. We're going to take that away when we build our phases over there. But a lot of work's been done to recreate an alternative trail to serve the school and that end of town that already been approved and put into place. It wasn't easy, but it got done. Snowmobile parking. There is a place for snowmobile parking next to Bear Valley Road. It's been in place for a number of years now. Thank heavens for the Silver Mountain Project, which allowed some negotiations to take place to designate an area for just exactly that, to take the place of the parking that we have allowed on the lodge lot for years at our concern for the people of Bear Valley. And it's just less than a stone's throw away from that. And it should serve the purpose, and I'm very happy with it being a homeowner that uses snowmobiles quite regularly. I'd also like to mention that there are walk-in people who approached us and said, we don't have snowmobiles, where are we going to load and unload our cars? We provided 4 parking spaces in our plans, in the EIR, for parking there on a limited basis for people to be able to load and unload their cars and walk to their homes instead of worrying about a snowmobile. The transportation center, we were asked to expand the parking for snowmobiles down there because the original concept of our parking structure appeared to infringe upon the needs of additional parking that's going to take place for snowmobiles in that area. We backed that parking structure away, providing a lot more parking for snowmobiles than was ever envisioned down there. And I'd like to say that we also worked with the county, and they've come together with a designated loading and unloading area for the snowmobiles. You know, recently there was a vote that was taken necessary in order for us to proceed with the ski area expansion, by the way, which is close to 35%. Significant for this ski area and for the longevity, economic longevity of the ski area, by allowing paid skiers to be able to ski across common areas in Bear Valley. It's been unheard of to this point that, in my experience in 20 years, where the members of BBRI, not the members, the homeowners here, the property owners, have passed a resolution requiring 51% on any issue in this town. It has overwhelmingly received votes to pass, which means to me that the people of Bear Valley, the large number of people of Bear Valley that aren't here tonight, voted to be with the ballot box in accepting that change in order to facilitate this entire development and make it happen. I'd just like to mention water. You know, we've been working a long time for water, and I noticed in Mr. Drury's letter from the unions, he says there's not enough water. There is water. We just received, because of the county's co-application, 395 acre-feet of water rights and a water rights permit. It's in hand. We have it, in addition to our current 182. That current 182 acre-feet will now allow us to provide the ski area with plenty of water to make it snow in the future. I'd also like to say, as a result of our efforts, we have reduced the water consumption, and as of this year, will be over 50% in the last 5 years, having a significant impact on the sewer treatment plant. That's a 50% reduction in water consumption in this area, in this town, that has an impact, a very positive impact on our sewer treatment plant. We just received an award today from the Environmental Protection Agency. Representatives came up here today to visit with us to give us a very prestigious award for the new plant that we put into place up behind the dam. They were overwhelming in their compliments about this water company and what it provides for this small community. The Environmental Protection Agency. It's very significant. And I'd like to say on the financial impact study, because it's obvious that the union folks have not reviewed the financial impact study that the county has done with regards to this project, and significant positive impact at every phase, and as a completed project, this will provide for Alpine County. It is significant. It is on record. For some reason, they didn't ask the question, or after all the other questions that they have asked, that's one that they seem to have bypassed. I'm very surprised. The impact, the positive impact of all of this in Calaveras County will be substantial too. Now the hard external issues. I won't go over Calaveras County. It's been talked about, Caltrans, CSERT, but I do want to talk about the Carpenters Union. You know, I've been down in the Bay Area. We had a construction company for almost 22 years. And we had union carpenters. We were signatory to the unions. We're very, very sympathetic to the unions. Very sympathetic, especially the carpenters. But I just want to go through a little bit of the history of this so that the Board of Supervisors and the union members that are here understand what has transpired as you move forward. First, when this first letter came from Mr. Drury, asking for all public information. In that letter, he said that he would have the unions contact us, or a conversation immediately after that, contact us about what the unions were looking for, the carpenters. At that time, we didn't know which unions it was. We had no idea. We received a call, which we responded to immediately, set up a meeting in our office with, as it turned out, the Carpenters Union. There was a representative from Lake Tahoe, South Lake Tahoe. There was a representative from Antigua, and a representative from Santa Clara County. And in that meeting, we asked, what is it that you're looking for? And this is the answer we received. A development agreement or a project agreement. Now, a development agreement and a project agreement is essentially an agreement whereby we as a developer would agree to use all union labor for the carpenters on this project. That's what it is. So we said, okay, we'd like you to send examples of what you are suggesting to us so that we could then get Greg Finch on the line from Colorado and talk about this with you. They did. They sent us about 6 or 7 project and development agreements in Stockton, I think it was Lodi, and places in the Central Valley, etc. That's what we received. We asked them to come back and sit with us and get a telephone call where we include Greg Finch. They did that. And as a matter of fact, we brought a gentleman in from Oakland, one from South Lake Tahoe, and one from Antigua. It changed a little bit. During that conference, we asked, what does this development agreement request or project agreement request have to do with our EIR? And there was no answer, except that they were looking for us to consider and wanted us to sign a contract of this sort. And here's what we said to them. We respect your interest in looking for jobs. We do that. We respect your interest in our project, and we respect your union. But there are a couple things that are very difficult for us that we have to consider in looking at this, and this is what they are. Number one, we aren't ready to build yet. We're just working through the entitlement process. We're trying to get through the EIR and the zoning change and the general plan change. We're not ready to get involved in looking at anything that far away. We just can't right now. Secondly, and more importantly, we have had support for many, many years up here with all kinds of businesses that wish to contribute and be a part of this project when it does come to fruition. We don't know whether some of those companies and people and workers will want to be in the union, not be in the union. We don't know that. But we owe a debt of gratitude for the support we've received in Alpine County and in Calaveras County in particular for the things we've done over these many years and for the support they've given us in terms of getting this project approved. We can't turn our back on these people if they decide not to do this, not to join a union. But we did say, and we asked them, would you produce a set of subcontractors and contractors that you would recommend be available to bid this project? Because we'd love to have that. We would very much love to have that when we get ready and get to that stage so that we can make sure that they have the opportunity to bid on this project. And furthermore, we will, through Leah and through our whole entire operation, we will keep you posted on the progress of this so that you know where we are in the process and have every opportunity to work on this project. That's what we offered at that time. Then 2.5, 3 weeks later, we get this letter from Mr. Drury outlining the issues in the environmental impact report that they're taking issue with, which never came up in our 2 meetings. This is very difficult for us to deal with. And then the threat of a lawsuit. Well, bring it on. But consider this. We like the unions. We want to work with you. We cannot do a project or development agreement at this stage in our process. We have to do more work in order to figure out exactly what we're. And we cannot turn the back on our local business people. We cannot do that. Now, what I'd like to finish with this milestone opportunity that we have now for Bear Valley, is that we will seek your approval for the zoning change. We will seek our zoning amendment. We will seek your approval. We do seek your approval for the general plan amendment. We also support the closing of the public comment period tonight to allow staff to answer the questions that have been raised in the last set of documents. We want a complete story at the end of this when this vote is taken. We want a complete story from all points of view before you take your vote. So we are very much in favor. But we want to end this process. Everybody's had the opportunity to come after this project. Everybody's had the opportunity to support the project. Enough time has been devoted to that. We're going to ask you to seriously consider closing this off so that we can then respond, get the information back to you, and then you can make a complete and informed decision the next time we get together. Finally, I'm going to say thank you for all the support that we have received up here from our small tenants who have lined this commercial center. When we first got here, there were 2 or 3 who have lined this commercial center and made livings up here. I want to thank Paul Peterson and the cross-country operation for what he's done for this town over the years. We want to thank what's happened in the Meadow in terms of, and Don McPherson in doing the best job of meadow management I've ever seen. We want to thank people, the Orvis family, and the people who have made us, allowed us to receive an Environmental Protection Agency award for our water company. We want to thank the people who work up, the Jim Getlings and the Jeff Max and his staff who work up at the ski area for hanging on until we can get this approved and make this thing happen and not collapse and not go back to where it was. This is not where any of us really want to be. So I'm going to say my final statement is that I hope nothing will take this opportunity away from us. Thank you very much.
Chuck, thank you.
We have been talking over here, and what we'd like to ask you to do is to close the public hearing at this time and then take a 10-minute break.
My only thing is, Gordon, did you want to say anything about the traffic first before we close?
If you have any questions, kind of clarifying questions on your part, I'd be happy to.
You didn't have anything in response to what you heard tonight?
Unless my client would like. I think it's all in the environmental documents.
Okay. All right.
I would just be reiterating the results there.
Okay, thank you. Public hearing this time is closed, for sure.
So we'll be back at 9:05.
We will take a, watch us here, 9:05. We'll take
Exactly.
a break.
Yeah.
Like in the music?
No, I'd be gone all day. Yeah, you see the light on everything down here? Nobody else can read it. I have that right over there. No, all right. See it. We'll see it probably tomorrow. Good. Are you heading out? There you go.
Huh? No. I'll be back about 3:30 holding papers. If you're still here late afternoon, you can come in and help me fold papers.
Down at Gateway, yeah, down at Normal.
Yeah. You want to go over the middle, you want to go over the maximum lighting. So. All right. Okay.
I'm sure tomorrow, one more day, and then we're going to fire it again, and it's going to open. It's good. Yeah. And restaurant, one of the trails is all service now. Food, alcohol, sewer, water, maintenance, so that's, if we fire up all the operations here, high overhead, high responsibility, All the time. You're not required to have
Crusted up from the drive over.
That says we got a choice. But it says, however,
Maybe we can all notify each
Chuck did that. I wanted just to
How was that?
Well,
To see you in all sorts of... No, I know.
Anyway, Tom, it's nice meeting you.
well, that was funny. You know, when they first
All right, you have to tell
What's going on with you?
Back to she was going to leave the key on his mat if she wanted to stop by. So she thought you were coming.
Oh, well, listen,
Certainly.
hey, well, I'm also going to be in town next week, so I can connect.
Well, maybe we'll do dinner.
Oh, well, now I have the 3 dogs. It kind of really works great is to come stop by and say hello.
Oh, no, that's what you have to do. Yeah. That's right. She did mention she was going to leave a key on the line.
I know. Wasn't that too nice? Yeah. You got a treasure in that one, as you know.
Oh, yeah. And she loves animals.
What are the deer doing with this cold weather?
Gone. We quit feeding them over 3 weeks ago.
And that's for their benefit to send them
Oh,
away.
yeah. There's no food here. No reason for it. It's getting colder. I go there.
Oh, this weather's been terrible.
My daughter hit her valves down in the big we drove down Monday.
It's sparkling. It's like...
Oh, yeah, I don't know. You know, I watched the news today. They said some today, some tomorrow, some Thursday.
Yeah,
They didn't say there's going to be a major storm any one day. Oh, because it's going to snow, and they eventually have to do it anyway. And that's why they do it.
You know, that's why I have a good time. I've got to say, I have a custom that's not what I'm very proud of. Every year on the crossover weekend, I run into my own house with my vehicle. Okay? So I'm leaving town tomorrow to avoid the crossover weekend.
Yeah.
I ran into the breezeway 1 year, the retaining wall last year, and I don't know what's on deck right now. So, you know, keep me away from the car and the wheels and town.
Yeah, they're going to close this way.
Now, are you going to open this weekend too?
We are. Everybody is.
Yeah, we're all excited.
This is kind of a little bit early.
No. You know, this will be, normally we get 3 out of 4 Thanksgivings at Brave Low, but this will be the 4th year in a row that we did not get Thanksgiving. So global warming, one of the little documents I have is that our police are going to change that way. And our temperatures aren't going to be going up that much to cause like wholesale rain consolidation. But we are going to start our
season later.
And that's what I'm saying.
1 week later.
I'll tell you, I wish we could put global warming in the Bay Area instead of here. My plants are freezing like crazy. I'm losing all the
global cooling over there.
Yeah.
Isn't that so?
Climate change.
It's snowing in Houston, and we've got climate change. You know, we've got some of the coldest, you know, since
it's so bitterly cold here.
We have, Skip was telling me it's
where?
East Carson River. On the east side of the Sierras, all the way along.
Well, it was 9 degrees below yesterday morning.
I would say there's nothing below 20 degrees that feels good.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, there's just, I I don't care what North Face makes. You can't be warm.
Now, it's going back up.
We were balmy this morning at 12 degrees.
Oh, yeah, we were.
It was 2 days ago. And we get on, we get up.
15 degrees away. What do you take? Do you take the Bear Valley Wiki?
What we do is manage this sometimes. BearValleyX.com.
Oh, yours, cross country.
Cross country has a get weather link. Starts to file National Weather Service.
We're ready to come back to order. Everybody will take their seats.
We report the snow support and the temperature. And we do it right side out.
Very scientific.
It's very scientific.
Well, it's completely accurate.
Kirkwood does it. Kirkwood does it.
Oh, no, yeah, they do it.
Blows it up.
No, that is what
That's
they
the
do.
high point.
Oh, they have more.
Let's get back to order, please, so we can get out of here. That's a long drive tonight.
That's why I was. Yeah. I'm ready.
Okay, the board has taken testimony. We've heard from the proponent. We've heard from everybody who wanted to testify. And the public hearing was closed. Now we bring this matter back to the Board of Supervisors for deliberation.
Thank you, Supervisor Leach. Brian, did you want to go ahead and start, and then I think we're going to have some comments from our county council, Bill Wright, as well.
Okay.
Just as a housekeeping matter, I want to go ahead and just identify some additional documents that were submitted earlier this, up until the hearing started this evening, to make sure that they're clearly in the record. The first one is an email from Kimberly Lemieux, commenting on the project. December 9th letter from Weinberg, Roger Rosenfield, law firm. December 9th email from Bob Philpott. Letter received on December 9th from Mountain Venture Seminars, signed Aaron Johnson. I think this is an email I referred to, Kimberly Lemieux, December 8th. A transmittal with a resolution received on December 4th from the Calaveras Council of Governments. December 8th letter from Lance Kofsky. December 7th letter from Dave Johnston. Same letter.
There are two letters.
Two letters, okay. December 7th letter from Dave Johnston. That's the first one. Both of them addressed to Philip Bennett and the Board of Supervisors.
I think one's on behalf of the
Business
chamber.
Association and no, Business Association and myself, the general store.
December 3rd email from John and Julie Mallard. December 10th letter from ABCom Consultants. December 7th letter from Central Sierra Environmental Resource Center. December 7th letter from Shute, Mahali, and Weinberger LLP. And then Bill wanted to make some comments about the process.
And so, and those are all documents that were received after the packet went out, but have been submitted to the board and are part of the record. The other thing then I will comment also, Mr. Manley referenced my recommendation that we include an additional condition on the project that would be condition number 1, that is a fairly standard condition in most development projects that provides for the applicant to hold the county harmless. I have the actual wording here. You wouldn't take action on that. That's just a recommendation. But when you approve the final project, you would consider whether to add that onto the project condition. So that wording is here also, and we'll include that in the record. And then at this point, I think it's up to the board on how they want to consider. There's a number of different recommendations in your packet. It's entirely within your discretion on how you want to proceed. Our staff recommendation is that you essentially close the public hearing, but you give staff some time to bring back a thoughtful response to the many letters that we have just received within the last few days. I think the individuals who have drafted those letters deserve a response, and we would like to prepare a response, and I think it makes for a better process. You will then be able to consider those, both the letters and our response in your final deliberations. So I will just make a proposed motion or give you a proposed motion that you can consider. It's certainly not the motion that you have to adopt, but what we're recommending is that you close the public hearing and bring this matter back to the board at their meeting of January, at your meeting on January 19th for a final decision. And that in the meantime, that you direct staff to prepare a response to those comment letters received by staff after completion of the board packet, and to have this analysis complete for the January meeting. The reason for the January 19th meeting as opposed to possibly an earlier meeting is simply because of the holidays and the time frame and trying to get the agenda packet out in advance of the meeting. We just don't feel that we would be able to really give the kind of response that we should within such a short time frame if we did it at your next meeting in early January. So we're asking for the January 19th time frame, and that will also then hopefully give the applicant and the various interest groups additional time to perhaps come to resolution on the various issues that have been discussed tonight.
Board members. Terry, go ahead.
Well, I want to thank all of you for showing up tonight and giving all your comments. We really appreciate it. And this is a really tough thing. I mean, listening to all your comments, and we're taking everything very seriously. But it is a very important decision in front of us tonight. It's a decision affecting our whole community here. And being a member of this community for many years, I can also echo a lot of those comments from many of you tonight regarding the failings of our community here in the last few years, and the struggles of the business owners here, which I am one myself. And I know there were many concerns regarding the Bear Valley water district. I think a lot of those issues are being handled right now, and I'm going to let that stand with that right now. The parking issues regarding snowmobiles and cars. The snowmobiles, we have dealt with that with our CSA board and with the county, and I think we have a very viable option to that. I don't think that this development should have to take care of the snowmobile parking. I think that is a later discussion, or a discussion regarding the future of our community here in Bear Valley, but not necessarily on this project. The regular parking in town, the project has a parking plan that they will develop as each project is proposed and approved. And the county in turn also has a parking plan that they will need to be doing here fairly shortly with future development, regarding future development here in the community. And I don't know exactly when that's going to be triggered. I thought maybe that we just need something shortly here. We did make a recommendation here that we have some sort of a steering committee to look at those kinds of issues, and maybe we can look at it all as a whole. I'm really pleased with the process between the progress with the process between Calaveras County and the Calaveras COG regarding getting a little bit closer, as you said, over there with coming to some agreement. And I was also pleased to hear about the serious and ongoing working relationship with CSERC and dealing with the greenhouse gas emissions and dealing with the wildlife habitat issues and the biological and the traffic studies. And I know that with a little more discussions there that we're going to come a lot closer on that. Let's see what else I have here. I guess I would have to say that at this point I would support your recommendation right now, the motion that you made just a moment ago, that I would support that at this moment. And moving that on to the January 5th meeting. And that's all I have on that. Pardon me? Oh, I thought you said the 5th.
Well, we talked about that, and we thought
Okay, so you said the 19th.
with
Okay.
Christmas and the holidays and trying to get the agenda out in time, we just
Okay.
don't, so we're recommending the 19th,
Okay.
unfortunately. But I think that's more realistic.
Mr. Sweet.
I would, I go along with a lot of Terry's thoughts. I really appreciate everybody coming here. I appreciate that everybody had something to say. It makes my job a little bit tougher and a little bit easier, I guess. I get to hear what the community says and what all the sides say. I thought I heard a lot of good discussion going on. It sounds like a lot of good discussions going on between the for and the against, and I think that's great. It sounds like you're coming closer together all the time. And I would hope that continues along, and that everything will be decided to make our job a lot easier. Yeah. But I'm also in favor of waiting until the 19th. I think that's a good way to do it. I think that's going to give everybody a chance to work things out. It's going to give me more of a chance to read the notes I took tonight and to read more of the letters that came in and have a better stance on how I would vote going forward or against it.
I agree with staff's recommendation that we should not take our action on the items before us tonight, and the 19th of January should give everybody a chance to respond to these letters that we got, letters, emails, and what have you. During that time, I encourage us and Calaveras County Board of Supervisors and all the staff and the COG and Caltrans to continue the negotiations to try to to come to an agreement. I think what I heard tonight was that the proponent or the proponents of this project have upped the ante significantly as far as the Highway 4 mitigation measures. And I think that we heard some information on the sewer and on the water that makes me feel better than I did driving over here today about those particular issues. So I'm also in agreement that we should keep the public hearing closed. I think we heard enough testimony tonight and the last time we were here. And reserve the remainder of the deliberation and action on the issues that were before us until the 19th of January. So I guess I would entertain a motion.
I would so move.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carries unanimously. Okay, very good.
Just a point of information, that's a Board of Supervisors regular meeting at 9 a.m. at the board chambers in Market.
That's correct.
Will there be additional community input at that time?
Well, the public hearing is closed.
Okay.
It's,
So,
yeah. Under the Brown Act, it's going to be on the agenda, so technically you can't stop someone from speaking.
I won't be.
But the hearing itself will be closed, and I guess we would ask everybody's consideration that, especially anybody that's already talked on this matter, that, I mean, we've heard the testimony. It wouldn't be part of the public hearing, but under the Brown Act, if someone wants to get up and talk, you can't really not allow it.
And I have to say, this board has always been receptive to that. We always are glad to have public input. We want to hear what you have to say. But we have business to take care of, and we want to make sure that that business is heard.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Will the same three supervisors be making the final vote, or will your brethren be involved in it as well?
We are hoping that all 5 supervisors, the other 2 will get to listen to the tape of this and will come up to speed, and all 5 will be making this decision.
It's a huge issue for the county. I mean, I think it's important that all 5 of the supervisors have an opportunity to be part of this decision.
And I have a second question. Is there any methodology by which the public hearing could be reopened for those supervisors who are now going to be part of it that may have had questions, since they're now coming up to speed?
It would have to be renoticed. It would have to, but there is a process that could be followed if that was the board's decision, but it would have to be, the hearing itself would have to be renoticed.
Because it would seem very transparent. Okay. It's just that if they're going to just listen to a tape and not have the ability to ask questions, it doesn't seem like a hearing.
Council will take a look at it. Thank you.
They can call me.
They will.
Is it a simple majority or super majority? What vote is required?
Simple.
3 votes.
Are you going to?
I am getting ready. I don't see anybody else that looks like they're waiting with bated breath to make a comment, so I will adjourn this meeting to our regular meeting Tuesday, December 15, 2009 at 8 o'clock in the morning at the County Administrative Building, Market.